I'm very pleased to invite Lavanya Prasad ji. He's going to talk about something extremely interesting. Uh, Villupatu, a traditional South Indian folk oral storytelling form. And Lavanya ji, she's an electrical engineer turned professional storyteller and believes that she makes better and long-lasting connections through stories rather than through electrical wires. No doubt about that. Her organization, Telescope, will be stepping into its ninth year this March and works with children, adults, and senior citizens using stories as a medium. She's been invited as a featured teller in international storytelling festivals in Singapore and USA and elsewhere. And she's had the opportunity, the privilege to take her stories in person to Australian Storytelling Guild, Melbourne. Multiple projects, and her project Roots with Senior Citizens was in the year 2020 acknowledged and appreciated by none other than Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Over to you, Lavanya Prasad.
Thank you so much. தந்தனத்தம் என்று சொல்லியே வில்லினில் பாட அம்மா வில்லினில் பாட வந்தரு வாழ்க்கலை மகளே. My pranams to everyone present in this conference. I'm here to tell you about Villupattu, a beautiful art form that stole the heart of everyone. Namaste, Vanakkam. My name is Lavanya Prasad and I'm a professional storyteller from Bengaluru. Today, my heart is filled with gratitude to Team Indica and Deepa Kiran for having letting me know about this conference about Indigenous storytelling traditions in India, which is why I'm here to tell you all about the journey of a war instrument from extermination to expression, and as a result of which this beautiful oral storytelling tradition from South India, Villupattu, was born. If you all were the child or children of 90s times, then you would have definitely grown up watching Doordarshan just like how I did. In DD, especially the regional DD channels, on special days like Independence Day and Pongal, there will be this group of storytellers who will come and recite or tell stories about that particular day, something like this.
வாங்க 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 எல்லாருக்கும் வணக்கம். ஆமா, தந்தனத்தம் என்று சொல்லியே வில்லினில் பாட ஆமா வில்லினில் பாட வந்தருள்வாய் கலை மகளே. பொங்கலோ பொங்கல் பொங்கலோ பொங்கல் பொங்கலோ பொங்கல் பொங்கலோ பொங்கல் பொங்கலோ பொங்கல் பொங்கலோ பொங்கல். ரசிகர்களுக்கெல்லாம் நம்முடைய பணிவு அன்பு கலந்த வணக்கத்தையும் வாழ்த்தையும். வாழ்த்து என்ன வாழ்த்து? பொங்கல் வாழ்த்து. ஆமா, சந்தோஷமான வாழ்த்து. எல்லாரும் மகிழ்ச்சியா இருக்கணும். அதுக்காகவே பெரியவர்கள் அந்த நாளை வகுத்து வச்சிருக்காங்க. அந்த வாழ்த்தையும் தெரிவிச்சுக்கிறேன்.
What drew me to this storytelling was the sing-song manner in which these artists told stories, especially interacting with each other. Also, the very special musical instruments that these people were using. And you know why I was so fascinated by it? Because it was at the same time in the 90s in Doordarshan, you would have also seen the Ramayana. Rama was using the same bow to kill the evil people, whereas these storytelling artists were using the bow as a form of expression telling stories. How could this have happened? And for that, I will have to tell you a story. Very, very long time ago, in the southern part of Tamil Nadu, Tenpandi Nadu, there lived a king. And this king, he loved hunting. One day, after his hunting expedition, he and all his troops decided to rest under a tree. As he was sitting under the tree and the soldiers laid out in front of him the amazing number of animals that he had killed that day, for a moment the king's heart was filled with pride. But suddenly, A thought crossed across his mind. வாழும் உயிரை வாங்குதல் யாவருக்கும் சாத்தியமே, ஆனால் வீழும் உயிரை எழுப்புதல் வேந்தன் நினைத்தாலும் ஆகாதுவே. Who am I to kill or take a life if I can't bring back one to life? Who am I? The king was confused. The chief minister, who was standing right next to the king, came to help. பாவத்தை கழுவ பாட்டு பாடி விடுங்கள். To wash away your sins, why don't you sing, my lord? He took the bow that was right next to him, gave it to the king. Use this that made you commit the sin. Use this to wash away your sins. Sing the truth from your heart and you will feel better. They took a water pot to make the bow stand. He gave the arrows and he asked the king to make rhythms by striking the string of the bow. He said, sing with all your heart. Give yourself to the art. தன்னை தந்து பாடி விடுங்கள், தன்னை தந்தோம் என்று பாடி விடுங்கள். That is what later became தந்தனத்தோம். And the king started to sing. தந்தனத்தோம் என்று சொல்லியே வில்லினில் பாட. The soldiers who were there wanted to acknowledge the king. And they said, ஆமா, ஆமா, ஆமா. தந்தனத்தோம் என்று சொல்லியே வில்லினில் பாட ஆமா. That was how this beautiful art form of VILLUPAATU came into being. And that is how the war weapon became a healing instrument. Now, could there be a psychological significance of making the war instrument into an instrument of expression? Well, in our Indian culture, weapons have always been treated or seen with utmost respect. If you recall our Puranas and the Itihasas, you would have always read or remember about the kings or the divine beings who always invoked the divine before using an astra. When I say invoking the divine, I do not mean any form of worship or a ritual. It is more about considering whatever you're holding in your hand something above yourself. And when you do that, what happens? You become mindful of what you're using, completely aware of the fact about the destruction that this instrument could otherwise bring about. I think this is something which is very deeply rooted in our Indian culture. I will have to tell you about the Aydah Puja for that. A very important puja during the Navaratri festival. When I say Ayudha, I don't mean only weapons here. It means any tool that we put to use, we use on our day-to-day basis. I'm sure most of you here who would have celebrated the Ayudha Puja know. What do we do? What is the underlying significance of an Ayudha Puja? It is only giving complete reverence to whatever is there right in front of us. In other words, we bow with reverence to it so that when we use it, we do it with a deep sense of involvement. I think our ancestors were very clever in putting this aspect of bowing in reverence to the VILLUPAATU by literally taking the war weapon and converting it into an instrument of healing. That is how a bow came to be used to tell stories. Well, the Raja was very happy that he found a new art and he went around telling stories to people along with all his people and made sure that the people in his kingdom learnt the art too. And this is how it became a very intricate part of the 10 Pandi regions of the Tamil Nadu, the Thoothukudi, Tirunelveli, Kanyakumari districts. Even today, if you go and watch a Kodai Vira that happens there, which is a post-harvest festival, you will see this group of VILLUPAATU artists sitting right opposite to the sanctum sanctorum of the temple and invoking the deity, the village deity, and connecting the people there to the divine. That is how the traditional Villupattu that we see today came into being. The stories that are told in this Villupattu is very interesting. There are two kinds of stories in the traditional Villupattu. One is the birth stories. In this birth stories, the heroes and the heroines are the gods and goddesses who are called as Deva Piravis, meaning they are of divine origin, divine birth. And now these gods and goddesses, they come to earth, become the, what do I say, Kavalali Kadavul, or the people or the gods who help or take care of the people in the village. And they have been given temples and they confer boons, just like Ayyanar or Kaliamman, for example. Whereas in the death stories, the hero or the protagonist of the story is a human being. And this human being would have gone through a death in a very most unjust or a violent manner. So, what happens to them is the soul of that person goes to Kailasha, that is what they say, and it gets special powers, comes back, takes vengeance on those who have caused unjust death, demands worship, temples are built, they confer boons, and something like the Muttupattan or even the Paranur Neeli, for example, everybody, all that comes under the death stories. Well, like I told you, the one that I saw in Doordarshan was something like this, the contemporary form of Villupattu. But what actually happens is the traditional form of Villupattu. So, what is actually the difference between these two? One is definitely the stories that are told. The stories that are told in contemporary Villupattu address anything, any issues. The instruments that have been used also have changed over the years. Nowadays people start using tabla and keyboard for better reasons. But what one should remember is the bow that is used in Villupattu has got a very, very literal and metaphorical value. The bow that is used to make this Villupattu bow is made from something called as the Vairam Kachiya Panai, which means a very old palm stem, which is very strong, that it is also very easily flexible, just like how the art form itself is very flexible and it could be used to tell anything. Also, the string that was made earlier was to be with cowhide, but nowadays people use nylon strings. That's what I hear. But the most important thing of all is, how did this transition happen from the traditional Villupattu to the contemporary one? And for that, I will have to tell you about this person. Kalai Vanar N.S. Krishnan Avargal, a very, very well-known comedian from the Tamil cine industry. He was a person who was born in the Kanyakumari Mavatam or the Kanyakumari district where this Villupattu originated. So it was natural for him, a person who loved music, drama, and poetry, to start his career as a Villupattu artist, because it is only in this Villupattu you will see the three elements of Tamil, the Iyal, Isai, and Nadagam, or otherwise the poetry, music, and the drama come together. And this slowly led him to get into the Tamil theatre industry. And from there, he saw his presence in the silver screen. In silver screen, during his times, he ruled the silver screen with his humor. Subtle humor and deep messages was his forte. But despite all this, I should say that this artist's heart was always longing to go back to his roots. He wanted to bring back Villupattu. But how? With a different vision. Did that happen? Well, it did. In the late 1930s, when this artist was in the peak of his career, he was invited as a chief guest to a function that was happening in a Tirunelveli college. It was during that time he came to listen to one lad, Subbu Arumugam, who was singing songs about the freedom struggle that was happening in the Tirunelveli Jilla at that point of time, infusing humor in his songs. Now, how can NSK leave somebody like that? He went to Subbu and he said, "You should come with me to Chennai Pattanam. And there I will give you a very important job." Subbu did go, and these two, the revolutionary combination, I should say, with Subbu's beautiful lyrics and NSK's infused humor, Villupattu was taken to a different level altogether. In 1957, when NSK died, his vision for Villupattu did not die, for he had already transferred the art to Subbu Armugham along with the villu that he was using. Today, at 94, Subbu Armugham Ayya is still using the same villu, the bow that was given to him by his tutor, N.S. Krishnan. Subbu Armugham Ayya was one primary person who brought Villupattu to the living rooms of all of us, just like how I saw him in the television with the advent of television. Not only that, he addressed anything from social issues to scientific developments using that Villupattu, keeping the 7-step traditional original structure intact, which is this. You can read about this very detailed in my paper. But what I should definitely tell you here is a Villupattu, which is otherwise a 3-day long festival, was definitely, with the advent of television, reduced to something half an hour to 45 minutes or sometimes even 15 minutes. Well, but Subbu Armugam definitely inspired a lot of young minds, just like this.
சபையிலுள்ள பெரியோரே தாய்மாரே தந்தைமாரே அண்ணாமாரே அக்காமாரே தம்பிமாரே தங்கச்சிமாரே எத்தனை பிழை உண்டேனும் எல்லாம் பொறுத்தருள் பிழையெல்லாம் பொறுத்தருள்வே அன்று கேட்டுக்கொண்டு இன்று எங்களுடைய கதைக்கு வருகின்றோம். பொய்யாமொழி புலவர் என்னென்ன கொய்யாமொழி புலவரோ? அது கொய்யாமொழி புலவர் இல்ல, பொய்யாமொழி புலவர். பொய்யாமொழி புலவர் என்பது வள்ளுவ பெருமானை குறிக்கும். ஓம் அண்ணா, அந்த தாடி எல்லாம் வச்சிருப்ப.
Just like how I told you, it is infused with the Iyal Isai and Nadaga Tamil, and also humor seems to be a very important element of all this. Not only that, people took it to the next level by also infusing English. Like I told you, the bow is a symbol of flexibility, just like how this art form brings or is flexible to take anything in its form. Also, talks about taboo topics were included in Villupattu, just like how the sisters of this South is telling us.
Vanakkam, I'm the sister from the South and these are my Thangachis. We'd like to put a big welcome to everyone watching this video.
Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Sisters, do you know what's special about 28th May?
What is special?
It's World Menstrual Hygiene Day. And today I want to talk about the menstrual hygiene products that we have. See, I used to use sanitary pads. Sanitary pad. They are efficient, hygienic, and easy to access.
Besh.
But then, like the poet Thiru J.Z. Avargal once said, I had 99 problems.
What problem, sister? Sing and tell, no?
Okay, sing it up, poche. DJ, start music. Point. Did you know the pads that you have are 90% plastic, 90% synthetic, just like my exes, I love you. That's 125 kg of sanitary waste that you throw away every year.
Messages like this, also appealing to the younger generation, is what is being told now, thanks to technology. But then comes the next question. Is technology a boon or a bane? Well, when we consider traditional Villupattu artists, it's definitely caused them a decline of performances. People do not invite them much because there is so many other things that they can do with technology. But for artists, city dwelling artists, technology has definitely turned to be a boon, where they are conducting Zoom online sessions, traveling across the continents using the technology that is there. Does that mean that Villupatu is thriving? Well, the answer is both yes and no. For people like Subbu Armugam, he has made a clever choice of including his family in the telling. The picture that you see in black and white is his son and daughter, and the picture that you see in color is his family now, where even his grandson has come into picture. But for traditional artists, it become very difficult to bring in five different artists to come together for one performance. This is the sad state of Villupattu today. To me, Villupattu is something which is very deeply rooted in our culture and tradition. Our ancestors have made it a very beautiful thing by bringing in both psychology and spirituality into one art form. Well, is this art dying with the artist? That is a question that I would like to leave you all with. But for now, I think we should all bow with reverence to this art form. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lavanya ji. I think you've thrown light on not just an important storytelling uh, form and an art, but also thrown light on a very important aspect of the civilization, where how we treat weapons.
Exactly.
What is the care? What is the sense of responsibility? What is the sense of ritualism around that? How do we transform weapons into something else for domestic time, peace time?
Right.
That is a very, very important. In, in the past, I used to see, at least in Karnataka, the bow-shaped instruments through which they would use it to make special items in cotton. So
Mm,
bow is an instrument that I've seen being used in multiple different ways, and in some ways, it also represents how the the weapons, there is a sense of responsibility towards the weapon, that it ought to be used for deadly reasons. In special,
absolutely.
in
Yes.
other times, you do it like this. Or there is this tradition in our state, where weapons are you brought down at certain time, but again packed back on terrace at other times. I think is this sense of responsibility has saved us as a civilization.
Right.
Thank you so much.